Hello everyone, this is Tom Geisler and this is my ASD journey. This segment is going to be Autism Under 10, which is my attempt to try to do short segments. Attempt, I did say. What this is going to be about is the topic of shame. And I think this is a critically important topic for people who are autistic and people who are not autistic to better understand people who are. I had a conversation with a good friend of mine in Australia, and the topic of shame came up. She said something that was profound to me, that it's one thing to criticize a person's behavior. It's another thing to criticize the person. Behaviors you can change. The person you cannot. And I'm talking about, and this is what's important to understand. People who are autistic, and I'm not going to limit it just to people autistic, but that of course is the focus of this program. People who are autistic, I think, are uniquely to autism. I will say this, that people who are autistic have a unique sensitivity, a connection. I think this is at the heart of autism, that the separation between self and the identity of self and the things around us, we do not have definite, clear lines of where self begins and where other begins. So that especially young children, and I'm going to say young as in 2-3 years old, maybe from birth. My memories are probably from about 3 on. And I don't mean I have like the same kind of memories as I do as adult memories, but I remember things that happened and emotions and what I felt then. To those who are autistic, I say understand this, that connection that we have, and everything's a blessing and a curse, and this is ours as autistic people, our sensitivity, our connection with everything. It can be beautiful if the connection is beautiful, and it can be hell if the connection is hell. When you shame a person who's autistic, everybody, but especially someone autistic, and the younger they are, and the less and the more fragile the sense of self is, you do irreparable harm to that stage of development of self. And that's within the first, 2-3 years of life, or actually, the core. I'm talking about where it is so sensitive. It's like a young plant that's growing, they're so tender and they're so fragile that what can happen to a plant that's a month old or 3 months old compared to a sprout, it will kill the sprout and it will damage the mature plant. There's always a bit of a sprout in people who are autistic. I hear it, we talk about this a lot as being more childlike. I don't know if because that's like a maturity thing. Of course, there's some ways, I guess, maybe I'm immature like a child. But I don't think it's that. I think it's a different perspective. But when, we're that sensitive. We keep the sensitivity of a child throughout our life. We don't have that clear definition between self and other. And it's a really good thing. This is why art through the autistic eyes is so personal, and music. This is why the arts, period. But that translates into physics, where you start looking at things as yourself. You relate to it on that level. You go, I put this and this together, and this happens. And you feel that. It's like an emotional chemistry that's going on as well as an intellectual. And First of all, I want to say that there was those in the autistic community that are like me that have always and still are dealing with that self-esteem issue and that self-worth issue. Is we've got to let this logical side of us talk to our feeling side and say, no, there is not a right or a wrong person. There are behaviors. There are things that we can work on. We're all growing. Everybody's growing. Everything is growing. All animals, plants, anything with life. That's the life. That is life. And we're okay. We are beautiful people as autistic people. All people are beautiful. All life is beautiful. That we need to internalize, because, and this is the message I would say to people who are not autistic, how that sensitivity, especially when young, but throughout our lives. I mean, still, it's 61. My sister is 60 plus 3, 64. I mean, I know all ages of people, and everybody autistic has that core sensitivity, because we don't have the insulation around us that I think most NT people do. So the message to people who are NT, especially if you're teachers, parents, I mean, of course, but teachers and psychologists and anybody who is an influence in the life of somebody autistic, needs to, I cannot explain, I don't know if there is a way to really explain what we feel. Because if you're not autistic, you're going to interpret that in the way that you feel and how you can put your experiences to what I'm saying. But know that there is, at any age, but especially younger, the younger the more sensitive, but even as adults, words and actions and things like that are just so deeply felt, and it hits us as personal, because, and I don't mean we're looking, I don't know how to say it, it's not that we're not being paranoid. We are being protective. We are trying to be ourselves in a world that is so intimate and personal. You know, you think of eye contact. Why is that hard? Because we're internalizing the person so deeply through their eyes. That's what the eye, you hear the eyes are the mirror of the soul, or whatever that quote is where it is. It's true. There's true. When you make eye contact with somebody, there is a connection there that ties right into our autistic sensitivity. And but anyway, so to keep this as autism under 10, I think that shame is a very important thing to be thinking about, and how, if you're autistic, how that has influenced your life. To also think about how it's our sensitivity. The world around us isn't all autistic, so that we also have to understand that things that happen to us are not meant personally. That is a hard one. That is so hard. But it's for your peace of mind, your well-being, that you understand. Do not let shame come into your life. And those who are not autistic, I hear this a lot of times: what can I do to help this child, or my friend, or my husband, or my friend's husband, or my friend's friend? If there was one thing I could say, is understand that level of sensitivity in all that you do. Not walk on eggshells. Not that you're going to do something wrong. And I don't think we see it as, well, we don't see it as you're doing something wrong. We see it as we've done something wrong. It's just something to really, really take into heart and think about when you're thinking about autism. And thank you. This is Tom. This is Autism Under 10. Probably some more like under 20, but thank you for listening. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.